Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant. Today we are at the next topic, that is we are going to discuss a line against the Sicilian and we are going to look at the Alapin Sicilian, as we have already done 2 lessons on it. Today we are going to discuss against one of the side lines and we will try to surprise the opponent in doing so as well. So the lines I will choose, most of them will take us to a standard positions, and there are some very interesting ideas which are not totally standard but they are very sound and very interesting. So let's get into the starting position: e4, c5, c3, and the line we are looking at is g6. Black fianchettos his bishop, wants to play g7 and then isolate the pawn on d4 and attack it. So after the move d4, black wants to play the move d5, isolate this d4 pawn, and then with bg7 and c6 put pressure on the d4 pawn. So this indeed is a very interesting line. Black has 2 ways for doing that. Either many people take cd and go d5. Otherwise, black also prefers playing d5 right now and see later when to play cd4. So first we will look at the move c takes d4, c takes d4, c takes d4, d5, and we are not going to play e5 since bishop will get the f5 square. So e takes d5. White doesn't intend to hold this pawn permanently. All he wants is to get a proper development. So the main line would be nf6, which would take us to Caro-Kann-Panobotvinnik attack. Also the move bg7 and then nf6 will transpose. We will also look at the line queen d5 now. Let's see one by one. So after nf6, white plays nc3. Same position would happen after bg7, nc3, nf6 also. And now black plays bishop g7. So this happens to be one of the critical positions. Now black wants castle, then knight d7, knight b6 and grab the pawn back on d5, and the isolated pawn will come under fire later on. So white should avoid those kind of positions. They are playable, but I prefer the move bishop b5 check, putting question to black, and see black's position soon becomes little bit shaky. So main line is see nd7, absolutely necessary. After bd7, qb3, white can indeed keep this pawn. He can later on follow up with bg5 and knight e2, knight f4. It's very difficult to get back the pawn on d5 then. So nd7 is necessary, and now white plays d6. See, white doesn't want to keep these doubled pawns. They are not an asset anymore. So e takes d4. See, castle would just allow d. Knight can go to e2 there. So e takes d6, and now comes queen e2 check. So this happens to be the main idea. Black is compelled almost to go with the move queen e7. kf8 is just a bad position. White can go bishop f4. After queen e7 also, white goes bf4. See, such a main line, and we are treating it in a totally different way. I won't say it's very unusual, but very interesting. After d5, simply there is bd6. We can get transposition to the game. Black can go qe2, knight e2, and then again he can do d5. When I like bishop d6, bf8, be5, even the move instant be5 is very good, because now we threaten to take both knights one by one, bd7, bf6, and take knight takes d5. White will just win a pawn and have a better game. True, black will have bishop pair, but the knights are also well placed in that case. So now let's look into the internal lines. bg7 was by no means forced, and black could have very well played the move knight takes d5. And now see, white will again try to take the initiative. We will go with the move bishop c4. After nb6, the bishop can just drop back to b3. We pressurize f7, but most players go with the move knight c3. And here white has the very strong qb3. And intermezzo, exploiting the weakness of f7, setting a small trap. It's hardly a trap. No one will ever play ne4. After ne4, there comes bishop f7 check, king d7, queen e6 check, kc7, and several ways to win are there. Queen e4 is just good, queen e5 check, winning the rook is winning. Thus after qb3, e6 is forced. Now white goes b takes c3, bishop g7. See, because of e6, g6, f6 and the d6 have become weak, and white goes ba3, stopping black's castle. And see, white is almost about to break with the move d5. Almost in most cases, white will get the move d5 and a very strong initiative. instant bf8 would allow d5 directly. Even bishop f8 would help us to break black's castle. Simple but clearly better for white. Lastly, we move to the line queen takes d5. Direct queen d5 instead of nf6 or bg7. Here the white has superb play, knight c3, queen a5. The queen has wasted moves and white again starts same plan, bishop c4, putting pressure on f7. Black has two ways. Either he can go nf6 or he can go bg7. Both are almost similar. After the move bg7, again see qb3, forcing black to go e6, nh6 just allows bh6, f7 is lost. And after e6, white instantly crashes with d5. When after e takes d5, bd5, we can make out that f7 and b7 both are weak. Bishop c3, bc just doesn't help black. The dark squared bishop is very important one here, and black should not give up that bishop after playing g6. So black should prefer first nf6. This would not allow the move d5 instantly. See, after now qb3 once again, e6. This time see d5 is not that strong because after ed knight cannot take on d5 and we don't want to surrender the bishop by bd5. So white first completes development, nf3, bg7, castle, black goes castle, and now white plays d5. When the knight is unpinned, so after e takes d5, we want knight d5, knight takes d5, bishop d5. Many would say this position is close to equality, but it's not true. See, white's initiative is very strong. White has more development already. The remaining bishop would come out instantly. Many cases bd2 would gain a tempo, and see, rooks can choose between c1, d1, e1. Look at black, still two developments to complete, and white has the threat of ng5. If instant h6, no strong player would go for this, but ng5 seems to be a serious threat. So here see bd2, qb6, trying to trade the queens, but see bb4, and white instantly is winning. The f8 rook hangs. If the rook moves, then bf7 check is even worse. So white is almost winning. We can see that in this queen d5 fi line, white without taking any risk whatsoever has already grabbed the initiative. Black is perhaps forced to go with the move nc6. When after knight g5, again black needs very precise play. Knight e5 blunder because of f4. If knight moves, f7 is lost. So nd4 is forced, and now to see qc4. White maintains the queen on the diagonal and keeps eye on the knight. Now the move ne6 instantly costs a pawn after knight e6, be6, be6, fe6, queen takes e6. So perhaps black has to try the move be6, when also after knight e6, rook c8, we can see that white has the very strong b4 followed by mc5. There also it seems like white is winning. Means black has to give up the pawn by playing ne6, and white would be clearly better once again. So now let us investigate the move d5 without capturing on d4. This move makes much more sense and is a choice of many stronger players. So e takes d5, queen takes d5. Black can play the move cd4 whenever he wants. So there is no hurry. Why to give the b1 knight place on c3? So black's logic is very clear, and here also white has to be very careful, because if white just develops simply, let's say nf3 is a sensible move, bg7, and now if white plays something like be3, be2 castle, then after cd, nc6, nf6 castle, black simply keeps building up on d4, and we would say that that position will be exactly what black wants. So what I am going to show you is a very interesting play by white. He will create his own chances and try to grab the initiative also. So white goes with the very unusual na3. See, this will come as a surprise to any black player. Idea is totally different. Let's see what's going on. Whenever b3 comes, there will be the threat of dc5, because qd1 will be met by rook d1. That is point 1. Second, this knight is either heading to b5 or the c4 square. If instant a6 is played, many players are scared about nb5, but now knight c4 will give a strong initiative. Knight eyes e5, and also threat of nb6 is there. So black will have to waste more moves. And white's main idea is, if black goes cd4, he wants bishop c4. The point is very simple. Now see white's play. is very smooth. If queen e4 check trying to win a pawn by next move dc, then white has the unusual see bishop e3, very simple. It looks what's happening. The point is if d takes e3, there is a small tactic. Bishop f7 check. King can't take f7 directly because of ng5 check winning the queen. King f8 forced. qd8 check. Compelling kf7 and see ng5 check and the queen is lost. It's a nasty trap and white wins. So here many players would just go with the move qd8, and here also we can see white has the very strong qb3. Even the move nb5 is very strong, but qb3 is much more improved version, forcing black to go e6. And now see the square d6 is really weak. White can go with the move nb5. Now the idea is, it looks like dc will be met by nc3, but after dc, white can consider the very strong bishop f4, threatening nc7, nd6 and rook d1 also. This position should be almost winning for white. And finally, let's have a look at the line where black doesn't play cd4. So if black avoids playing cd4 now also and goes with the move nc6, then white can use the move bishop c4 still. Same point now, queen e4 is again met by be3, and this time also you see the threat of bishop f7 is a big problem, because even nf6 allows bf7, kf7, ng5. It means next move d takes c5 will be taken. So that is the reason now the pawn would be lost, and also same see cd4 is met by bishop f7, which also gives winning position to white. For instance, bf7 check, king f8 and just c takes d4, and it's close to a winning position for white. So I hope you must have enjoyed this analytical part and theory of this line. Do let me know in the comments below. Thanks for your time.